empty the chamber on them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, point A to point B, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go. Welcome to the Morning Scoop. It is Tuesday, October 11th. We are in the middle of an off week, which is great. The team needs it in the worst way with some of these injuries, some of these nagging things we've had going on. These guys have a chance to get healthy. And even more importantly, Ryan Day and his staff get a chance to get out on the road and see some of these top 5-star kids that we haven't seen or they're going to be committing soon. So they get one last little peep. The bye week is so critical. I think this is a perfectly timed bye week for the team, given the great start that we've had and just some of the nagging injuries that we're dealing with. Some of these guys, they got to get healthy. We don't necessarily need them for Iowa. We definitely need them for Penn State. We need Jackson Smith and Jigba, Mayan, Trey Henderson, all these guys to be raring to go for that one because that will be a major tilt in the route to Michigan. With that being said, as always, thank you guys so much. We're thankful and grateful. We are growing like crazy on YouTube, all thanks to you guys. So thank you. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like down below. There's a little thumb. Click on that. That means a ton to this video. It really helps other people find it. Comment, who do you want to see us land that the coaching staff is going to visit on the bye week? The 5-stars, Keon Keeley. I'm sure we're going to go see Mateo Uiagalelei out in California. There's some big-time guys. I know Justin Fry's getting on the road to see some big-time tackles. So who do you need to see us land? Who do you expect us to land? So write that in the comments below. And in 2 years, I want you guys to answer it now. Will we be looking back at Marvin Harrison Jr. as the best receiver in Ohio State history? With that being said, I'm going to bring in my good friend, Nevadabuck. Nevada, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Buckeyes, they've been taking care of business every week for the first 6 weeks. And now, like you said, a well-timed bye week. Get ready for the second half of the season. So, no, I'm revved up, ready to go. And I think things have gone just about perfectly so far for the Ohio State, and can't ask for more than that.
And, you know, it's interesting because we do summer reports all summer conditioning, training camp reports from people that are watching practice every day, sources that are in the Woody Hayes, some really, really good sources. And they marveled at how good Marvin Harrison Jr. was. Sometimes I think people think, oh, he's sunshine pumping or whatever. But like, turns out you're really, 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 really right about Marvin Harrison Jr. And what do you think his ceiling is, and how good can he be this year? And can he win the Biletnikoff?
Well, I think the only thing that might keep him from winning the Biletnikoff is the other guys in the room, and the fact that Ohio State shares the ball so much and moves the ball around. But no, he came in to Ohio State NFL ready strength, NFL ready knowledge. The way he runs routes, the way he prepares. We talked about Marvin Harrison being a guy. He's no nonsense. He's all ball. No NIL deals. Just wants to be 1,000% focused on the prize of being a great NFL wide receiver, and certainly got the DNA to do it. And everything he's done in the field so far has kind of backed that up. So he's a pleasure to watch out there, and I think he's obviously he's got a bright future ahead of him. But the sky's the limit. I think I'd say his floor as an NFL receiver right now, again barring injury, knock on wood, is Michael Thomas. And when your floor is Michael Thomas, that shows you how good this guy is. I mean, he is outstanding in every aspect of the game, and really going to be a big part of what I think is going to be an Ohio State national championship run this year. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, and the thing that is always impressive, because I think Michael Thomas had the greatest season in NFL history as a wide receiver, is when you realize when Michael Thomas was at the same age as Marvin Harrison Jr. He was a true freshman at Ohio State because he went to military school with Cardale for 1 year. And then he played a little bit as a freshman, then he redshirted as a sophomore. So he really didn't come on until what would end up being Marvin's, first year in the NFL was when he first started to make a name for himself. The year we won the national title. And then the next year he was, one of the best receivers in the country. But I totally agree. I think that with all these receivers, just like every other position in the NFL, it comes down to the scheme that he gets drafted into. Does he find a great quarterback and a great offensive system? Because if that happens, look out. The kid is focused. He's a great kid. He's a smart kid. His dad is literally one of the best players in NFL history, gold jacket, NFL Hall of Fame guy. So that is a sky high buzz. And it's amazing that there were some people that didn't think this guy was going to be any good in college, which is stunning to me because like if your dad was Marvin Harrison and then you end up coming out as a supersized version of Marvin Harrison, I don't know how you could not be good. That'd be like if they made Steve Smith, except he's 6'7" instead of 5'9", and you're like, well, I never knew he'd be good. So we're gonna run through some of your uncomfortable truth here. That was the first one that we touched on. Nevada, uncomfortable truth number 2. This is a really good one. I know that a lot of people, they never like to give stud credit, but that room right now is loaded. That offensive line is playing very well. Our tackles it's the best pair of tackles that we've had since Pace and Stringer, in my opinion. They're really, really mashing. Luke Whippler's doing a great job. Our guards are phenomenal. And we have some depth. We have some guys that can get in there and play a little bit. Josh Schreier plays as that extra tight end in the number 41. Talk a little bit about, we got to give stud his roses for the recruiting here. Cause I'm telling you, like we had Thayer and Nick Petit both starting in the NFL right now, which is phenomenal for rookies. And there's really no drop off. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, you just have to give the devil his due. And, for people that want to say, well, Stud didn't recruit any of those guys, and it's like, well, wait a second. He leaves, and now all of a sudden the 5-stars stop. I mean, if the other guys were recruiting all the 5-stars and getting all these guys, then we need to get those other guys to step it up and start bringing the offensive linemen in, because he left a room after 6 years that, like you said, was loaded with talent. Normally when you send 2 guys off as starters to the NFL, your line severely drops off. And this is one of the best lines in NFL history, NFL Ohio State history, and for Ohio State right now. You're talking about, last year we talked about the playing guards at tackles thing, which was such a tired take. But if you really think about it, what were you going to do with Paris Johnson last year? Your choice is, okay, I'm either going to play him at guard, or I'm going to let this transcendent talent sit on the bench for a year because he's not a classic guard. I mean, it's just a preposterous notion. You had to play guys like that, and frankly, the fact that he got on the field so much last year and played is really, we're seeing the fruits of that this year with his outstanding play at left tackle. Because if he doesn't play last year, he's not as good as he is. He's not as dominant as he is this year. So I think from Justin Fry's standpoint, I'm super excited about what he's brought. I think the running game concepts that they're coming up with right now with him and Wilson and Ryan Day are outstanding. But at least let's give the guy his credit. I mean, Stud left the room in way better shape than he found it in. There's tons of dudes up and down the line, and that was kind of it's a little uncomfortable for people to accept that and to understand it. But I just think it's undeniable.
Yeah, and I think that it's one of the dumbest and laziest takes when people talk about playing 4 tackles on the offensive line, because offensive linemen are offensive linemen. There's guys that have to go in that are 6'7", that have to go in and play tackle or play guard, excuse me. There's guys that are 6'4" that got to go out and play guard. It depends on how you get the best combination of the 5. And last year, in the era of the transfer portal, I just don't know how you keep DeWand and Paris Johnson on the bench. You have a guy, DeWand basically has to play tackle because he's so big. And PJ is the most athletic of anyone on the line, super flexible. He's a guy that, even though he's 6'7", he was able to turn himself into a second-team All-Big Ten guard. And that was by the coaches. The coaches voted him second team, not the media. The media generally, I mean, that team isn't really even regarded as anything. This is like the media All-American team, like the writers, because they don't know football. But the Coaches Association knows football. The Big Ten coaches know football, and they voted him second team All-Big Ten as a true sophomore. So, I mean, people like to pan that move, but, I don't want to lose Paris Johnson to Georgia or Bama or Texas A&M or whoever because you bench him for 2 straight years, and then you literally get him for 1 year. It's kind of like, when you have a Marshawn Lattimore or some of these kids that, they don't really play until their 3rd year, and then all of a sudden they're out. They some of these guys, like Bradley Roby almost left after his 3rd year, because he redshirted and barely played his redshirt freshman year. So I think that they did the right thing. And, the hard part is these guys aren't robots, and, there were hiccups, and there was, Thayer and PJ were lifetime tackles, but, I'd rather have them in there as our best 5 and have some hiccups in the running game than have, other guys who aren't anywhere near as talented as especially PJ, but, Thayer was a first-team All-American last year too, starting in the NFL. So, we'll wait and see if these other guys are starters in the NFL as rookies, but what Thayer is doing is incredible, and he did the most selfless move in Ohio State history. So, uncomfortable truth number 3, this is a great one. JT, is even better than most people think, which I completely agree with.
Yeah, JT, don't call him JTT Tumalo. It's like, I mean, he's starting to dominate right now. I mean, you watch the guy every play, and he's either getting held or he's creating havoc on the defensive line. And like I said, I thought it was going to be hard for him to live up to the hype when he came in here as the number one player in the country, especially the way that his recruitment went. Kind of holding out until well after signing day, and everything was I wouldn't say it was a circus, but it was certainly all eyes were on him. He was coming in way late into a program, and boy, what a fabulous player he is, and what a pleasure he is to watch. And, his growth is kind of mirroring the growth of the OSU defense right now. And that's, again, with all the expectations that Knowles had for the defense, that's hard to match. And all the expectations that JT had, that was going to be hard to match. But I think they've not only matched him, but they've exceeded him. And that's really saying something.
Yeah, and he reminds me of a lot of the Polynesian kids I played with in the NFL, and they're really quiet. But man, when they get on the field, they're absolute monsters. They're beasts. It's like they let it all out, and he plays hard, and he's nasty, and he has an edge, and he gets in fights, and like he is a tone setter on the defense. And but he just if you ever met him, he's a really mild mannered kid, really nice kid. But he gets on that field, man, he's a different type of warrior, and I love that kid. I think that he has a phenomenal spin move, which you mentioned. In Michigan State, he hit the tackle with it. It's really hard to catch up to it. And as soon as he starts sitting on that, he's going to bore rush into infinity. So, I think that the production will come. I mean, obviously, Mike Hall's been by far our most productive defensive lineman rushing from the three technique. But I think, our ends, I think it's coming. I hope it's coming. But that's like the one thing that, if you put a gun to my head and say, what's the most surprising thing of the year? It's the fact that we haven't been racking up sacks with this Jim Knowles defense at the rate that he was racking them up at Oklahoma State, because they're getting opportunities because we're winning 28-0 at the end of every first quarter. So these teams have to throw. They're getting shots. So, these guys got to start winning more, despite the fast, the quarterback getting rid of the ball quick and getting cut and all the other things they're trying to do schematically. Uncomfortable truth number 5. Danny needs to find a role for Chip Trayanum. Chip is probably my second most surprising thing. The fact that we haven't found a role. He's kind of the kick returner now, but we get like one kickoff a game because we've played a bunch of terrible offenses, and if they take the kick, if they kick off to start the game, then that's about the only play he's playing. But talk to me about your thoughts thus far on Chip, Nevada.
Well, I think you bring this guy in. People have to remember, and I don't know, for many people that you didn't get a chance to watch the West Coast games, but he was a fabulous running back at Arizona State. I mean, absolutely terrific. Roasted some really good teams, had some really great games. And I just think when Ohio State's out there playing, you're running Xavier Johnson at the tailback spot. It just screams to me that they should be moving Chip there and giving him some reps, because he's not getting reps on the defense. Like you said, on special teams, he's in limited action. But I mean, we clearly have an issue at running back right now, and there's your answer. So it's like it's I don't know how uncomfortable that truth is, but it seems like an obvious truth to me that Chip needs to be playing running back at least in some limited duty. Teach him 3, 4, 5 plays that he can run, but he could help in spot duty. And while Mayan and Trey are kind of getting themselves ready for the spread try, I like to see him in there, with no disrespect to Xavier or Dallin Hayden, but Chip's a different level, and we saw that on the kickoff return. But I'd love to see him get him some reps at running back.
I would too. I think that he could be like a kind of a supersized Charles Woodson. Obviously, he's not anywhere near what Charles Woodson is, but a guy that you could play in the slot, run a jet sweep with him, put him in the backfield, hand him the ball, toss it to him. They ran these little short tosses into the boundary that I love. Really tough to defend. Just get him, 2-3 touches on offense, maybe 4. Keep him happy, keep him occupied. Obviously, you need him to spend most of his time on defense, but I think that when you have a kid like that who was a starter, his running back partners, playing a lot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, the Rashad White kid, and he's, you want to keep these guys happy, because again, with the portal, it kind of skews your mentality of how you treat these kids, how because like you'd hate for this kid to jump in the portal, then go be a linebacker somewhere where he knows he's going to start and play, as opposed to, because Steele and Tommy are back next year. They're not seniors. So, he's going to be in the same spot, the same boat next year. So you always worry about some of these kids because, we're going to lose kids to the portal. We don't know who yet, but, we're going to lose 8 to 10 kids like we did last year, and that's just the new normal. But it's going to be interesting to see how his role continues to develop as the season goes on. Uncomfortable truth number 6, and I love this one. Give major credit to Ryan Day and his staff for pulling out all the stops and having his team ready to go every week. Totally agree with that.
Well, I just think it's hard. I mean, we're winning games and making them look easy, and we're winning games despite bad things happening. Emeka muffing a punt, or CJ having a miscommunication and throwing an early pick six, and the Michigan State crowd couldn't have been more into it, and then they just extinguish all hope. And you almost wonder if some of those early plays serve as kind of a wake up call for the Ohio State team that kind of jolts them back into the game or whatever it is. But to Dave's credit, as we've seen for many, many, many great Ohio State teams, it's not easy to get up every week. It's not easy to get up on the road. It's not easy to get up against teams that you're better than, and to go out and play at a high level. And Ryan's been able to do it each and every week so far for 6 weeks, knock on wood. And I think he deserves all the credit in the world for making it look easy, because it's certainly not easy.
I totally agree. Like when I was here, obviously through the 02 season was my senior year. I went to a lot of games that year, and we had some clunkers against, Illinois, and, Wisconsin was better back then. Cincinnati. 03, we should have lost to Bowling Green at home. Barely beat Marshall in 04 by a Nugent field goal. So, I mean, I've been in games where it's like the big bad Buckeyes aren't quite as big and bad. So, I give a lot of credit to Ryan and Mickey Marotti and that staff for getting these guys amped up and ready to go. And it's just funny. Like, it takes like one little dumb play. Rutgers is up 7-0, or Michigan State's got 14 points. Then all of a sudden it's like, the Grim Reaper comes out, and it's, CJ Stroud in that offense throwing it up and down the field. I mean, I think we had 400 yards at halftime or something crazy. And, I give a lot of credit to those guys. I've been on the teams that were sleepy, and, you're up at Michigan State, the stadium's half empty, and those guys don't care. They show up and they rock, and, they're blowing teams out. And, I think it's a testament to how well we've recruited. The talent discrepancy is obviously a huge deal. But just getting these guys motivated every week is huge. Final number 7, Ohio State has to win the national championship this year, which I totally agree with. Give me your thoughts on that and why you went with that, Nevada.
Well, I just think, look, people don't like to talk about it. It's like talking about, jinxing a guy going for a no-hitter, or you're coming back with the obvious take of, you can't win it in October. Yeah, I know that. But Ohio State's got to win the national championship this year. There's not a great team. There's Georgia and Alabama aren't the big bad boogeyman. Clemson's not scary. Nobody else outside there. We're the best team in the country. We've got it all. We've got an offense that can score with anybody, and we've got a more than capable defense. All you need in the playoff is a more than capable defense that can get an occasional stop. We'll get some stops. And if you look at the weak point of the Ohio State team right now, if you had to look at from a defensive standpoint, you'd say it's, maybe passing game. And there's not a great passing team out there. And, we've had some kryptonite with the mobile quarterbacks, but I think we can kind of figure that out a little bit. But there's just not a great team out there. I think we are the great team. We're looking around for who's the great team. We are the great team. And so this is the year. I think this is the year we've got to do it. And I'm calling it right now. Ohio State's going to win the national championship. And I think this will be Ryan Day's finest hour as a coach. And it's an uncomfortable truth, but I think it's one that is going to become an uncomfortable fact.
Yeah, and when they get to it, man, they're going to have to run the table, because in all likelihood, Georgia's going to be 1 unless Bama knocks them off in the SEC championship. And then you've got Ohio State. In the best case scenario, that's what we get. Then Ohio State's 1. But otherwise, you're going to have Georgia or Bama at 1. And then Ohio State's going to have to play whichever one isn't 1 as the 2. And then they're going to have to beat basically Georgia and Bama to win the national title. So if they do that, they've earned their keep. They've earned everything. I think that, you look around the country and you're just like, man, we haven't even played with Jackson Smith and Jigba all year. So it's like our best player on offense hasn't even played, so he'll be back. And then you got, the defense getting straightened out. I mean, these corners, they've got to figure it out, whatever it is. If it's a technical thing, if it's, you got to give them more help, whatever it is, they got to figure something out with the corners. But otherwise, like, the linebackers have been A+, the safeties have been good. The safeties are, kind of a mismatch right now where I think Lathan Ransom is kind of overtaking Josh Proctor. Josh Proctor's playing at the very end of the game with a bunch of twos and threes, which doesn't usually bode well for his starting capacity. But the offensive line is A plus. The running backs have been A plus. The receivers are obviously A plus. Quarterbacks A plus. I mean, it's really a well rounded, strong team. Like I mean, so and the schedule is A plus because you got Penn State is going to be a noon game, so that won't be as scary as an 8 o'clock. You got Michigan at noon at home, so that's another easy. It's not easy, but it's favorable. You don't have that night game, Penn State, which is always tough, and the rest of the teams are they can't score. So I mean, when you go against us the way we score, I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. So Nevada, we have an off week. What do you want the team to work on? If you were in Ryan Day's shoes, what would be the things you would focus on during the call? They're probably going to get a couple practices in. The coaches are out on the road right now recruiting today. What would you want Ryan Day to work on over the next 2-3 practices of this off week?
Well, I think I'm rooting for two things. One is nothing bad to happen with Ohio State during the off week. So I just want nothing to happen on one. And from a specific standpoint for Ryan Day, I want to see them start moving the ball more to the running backs out in space. I've been saying it all year. I think those swing passes are there. I think they can start working the middle of the field with Cade and with Jackson Smith and Jigba from the slot when he comes back. But I just want to see the offense become a little bit more well-rounded. I mean, to be perfect. I mean, it's hard to pick nits when you've got an offense as prolific as the Ohio State one is. And defensively, like you said, you want the cornerbacks to kind of find their courage and let's find a couple of guys that can actually play and step up. All we need is two. The other guys can be just okay, but we just need two guys to be more than okay. And we've got the guys that can do it. We've got some guys that are rounding into form, getting a little healthier, and I think this Ohio State's got all the elements to do it. And let's get out there and do it. Got a nice easy game the start of the second half with Iowa, because Iowa couldn't score. We played Iowa for 100 quarters. They couldn't score 14 points on us. So we got a nice easy start to the second half and ready to get after it.
Yeah, I haven't seen an offense as bad as I was in a long time. So I mean, they're just horrifically bad. I mean, they won a game this year 7-6 with 2 safeties and a field goal, which I've never heard of in my life. So it's something else. I would like to see them scrimmage the young guys. I think there's a lot of these guys that are backups and threes that haven't played much, and they're getting the pregame meals, they're getting the sweat jackets and sweatsuits and all the gear. And they need to, pay the price a little bit and scrimmage a little bit just to see what they got, get it on tape, get those guys geared up like it's a game for them, because it can be. And, I'm sure Ryan will cut these guys loose probably on Thursday night, I would think, at worst Friday morning. Let them go home Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday night, and get ready to roll on Monday. But yeah, the bye week is at a great time right now. I can't wait to see, Bama plays Tennessee. Keon Keeley completed his visit. Ryan Day is visiting with him during this bye week. What are your thoughts of where we stand with Keon Keeley right now in Nevada?
Well, I think we'll know more a lot after that visit. I mean, that visit to Alabama, those are always really daunting, and I think I'll wait to make any call on that until we get some intelligence back from that Ryan Day visit with him, because that's going to really tell a lot of the story about where we are. So I'll put that as let's get back to you on that pending Ohio State's visit.
Yeah, and Keeley's he's really interesting. My Notre Dame guy told me that he does not do media. He doesn't talk to a lot of media. He does very, very quick interviews, small interviews. The coach does not want people reaching out to him. They're really tight on that. I mean, some people have gotten through, but he's a tough guy to crack. The coach kind of runs the show there, which again, I kind of like that. It's less the kid can be more focused on his senior year of playing high school football, and then Bama and Ohio State will always be there waiting for you when you're a kid who's as talented as Keon Keeley. To wrap this thing up, Nevada, we've had a great week. We added C. Grant, TJ Downing, Ryan, Phil. We've got some really, really big time talent now. Super excited. We have one big fish that we might be reeling in soon. But talk a little bit about some of the changes and some of the upgrades and personnel that we've made on Buckeye Scoop over the last few months. Because I'm over the moon excited about C. Grant and some of these guys we've added.
Well, we've just really tried to reposition the site as kind of the premier inside information site, so that you can come here and get inside scoop on what's going on inside the program, get a player's perspective, get a current player's perspective, get a past player's perspective, and just kind of get the stuff that the Ohio State that you may not get from the press conferences or the media availabilities or the stuff that's not available to you anywhere else. And we told people we were going to do that. We told people that's how we're going to reposition the site, and all the feedback we've gotten has been, oh my God, you guys pulled it off. You guys completely did that. You're not just a media site. You're not just an OSU spokesperson site. You're a site that kind of gives us really what's going on. And that's just a tribute to all the guys that are working so hard, and couldn't be more excited to be part of it. And like I said, ready to, I feel like the second half of the season is kind of the second half for the Buckeye Scoop as well, and ready to get after it.
Yeah, I could agree more. This is going to be a huge, huge chase. There's never been a better time to join the Scoop. With that, I'm going to wrap this thing up. There has never been a better time to be on the Scoop. We are on that board constantly. The game threads are amazing. We really are. We're having a blast on there. We've got some great new contributors. C. Grant is on the board a ton. TJ Downing. We got some big time stuff coming. We have the Oracle. We broke the internet last week with Humping Technician talking about some coaching carousel moves that are he's forecasting, he's looking at. So you should get on there, read that. We do more written content than anybody. We do a lot of podcasts, but we do a lot of written. So we know you guys like to read it, interact with us, have a good time. So I'd love to have you on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like down below. Comment. Who's been your MVP of the first half of the season? I'll throw that one on there if you guys stayed for the whole way. Is it CJ? Is it Marvin Harrison? Is it somebody else? Is it Mike Hall? There's some great candidates for that. So I'd love to hear your input. I always love reading your comments. I appreciate all the feedback on everything. So thank you guys for that always. As always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, and thank you, Scoop family. I will see you guys on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you have not tried us out on BuckeyeScoop.com, we are the premier premium Ohio State experience. So if you or you're someone you know loves Ohio State and really wants to know what's going on inside the program, try out BuckeyeScoop.com. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.